Good morning and welcome back to that magnificent St. Patrick's Hall in Dublin Castle. Welcome to those joining online for the Dublin Citizens Assembly, the 1st of October 2022. And we have just gone through a roundtable discussion on ballot papers number 1, number 2 and number 3. And now for the next hour, we have a question and answer session up to 11:30. So we're going to open up to the floor. When I give you the opportunity to speak, would you please introduce your name and your table, who you represent, and your question. So let's open up to the floor, please. Thank you. Any questions? Question from table number 2, and we'll have a mic to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi. My name is Paddy. I have a
Sorry, Paddy. If you could stand up as well, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have a question about ballot paper number 3. To be included on the ballot paper, a candidate must, and one of the criteria is gather 100 statutory declarations of support from the citizens of Dublin. And my question is, how do we arrive at that figure of 100?
I'll deal with this maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paddy. Randomly, I think is the best guess. There are more for the European Parliament, and there's a figure of 15 to get on the local elections ballot paper, so it was a figure. Breed might answer this question. She could talk a little bit about the numbers, because I know there was a recommendation from one of the tables this morning that figure from 100 be increased to 1,000, but I think Breed will be able to shed some light on that. No, have you?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. In other systems, the numbers vary hugely. So in England and Canada, it's 20 in one and 30 in another. In some of the European countries, 200. So you have all the variations, and also some other requisites are sometimes added, like the signatories must be eligible to vote in the particular constituency and so on. So you have the power to suggest what you think might work, but 100 was a kind of a middle of the road figure. Yeah.
Or
sorry, can you start again, Paddy?
Is there a science behind that figure, or is it? Do you know? Like, is there a science behind that figure, or how do they arrive at that?
I think democracy might be an important criterion. So that where the numbers are fairly low, the idea is that somebody, like if I decided to stand for election in the morning, that it would be easy for me to get maybe 30 or 50 signatures, whereas 1,000 signatures might be more difficult if I didn't have a high profile. So I think sometimes it's that sort of democratic element, but there is some evidence. And do you want to come in here? Yeah. Again, yeah.
I'm happy to come in here.
Okay.
There is science, and it's based on the size of the electorate. So we have a population of 1.4 million, so it seems like a reasonable figure. If it's not possible to agree a figure here today, what we could do is include the words an appropriate number of signatures if we were not comfortable saying 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000, whatever it is. Perhaps we could change the ballot paper to say that you recommend that you would gather an appropriate number of statutory declarations of support from the citizens of Dublin, and if people are comfortable with that, we're happy to do that.
Which might go to table 4. Deirdre, you had a...
Do you want to just get clarity on that? Just maybe a show of hands. Do you want to go with appropriate?
Yeah, just
on the same issue.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Just in relation to ballot paper 2.
Sorry, Deirdre. Specifically on the. Did you come up with the 1,000? Did I misinterpret that correctly?
Yes. Just to avoid people putting their names on the ballot paper and avoiding, as a part of a protest or whatever else, and to show commitment, I'm just wondering, would it be possible to look at something like, say, €1,000 deposit?
Okay.
And with a possibility then, to be fair, that they, similar to other elections, that they get a refund, they get their expenses back depending on the quota that they get, and certainly get the deposit back. So they would have to be serious and reach a certain percentage of a quota to be able to get their deposit back, but then it would make sure that anyone putting their name forward would be committed to what they're doing. Thank you.
Okay. I'll come back to that in a moment here. I was referring to your reference to 1,000 statutory declarations in support. So I'm just going to go to Arts. Do you have any more comments on that, or what I'm proposing?
Yeah, so on the 1,000, the declaration of support, again, for the same reason, to show people are committed, that they would have, get 1,000 signatures. I think what's being overlooked here maybe is the fact that the electorate for the European elections presumably will be the same electorate, more or less, who will be voting in a directly elected mayor election, because the Dublin City and County would all go out to vote for an MEP. So I think that that there should be some similarities there to have very, very serious people putting their names forward.
I think the figure for European Parliament elections is 150, and a statutory declaration isn't just simply signing your name. You have to go to your solicitor and get it verified, and you have to formally, so it is a bit of a burden. Getting 1,000 people to go to their solicitors is a big ask, I would have thought. And we have to balance the frivolous candidacy with making it as easy as possible for individuals to get on the ballot paper if we can. If we're not ready, both with the signatures and the deposit question, we can simply say an appropriate figure if people are more comfortable with that, and then it's up to the government then to decide the science on how big or how small those should be.
Okay, well, it will be similar to the European elections. Presumably people who can vote, I know EU citizens can as well, but I think that's what we should be looking at when we're looking at trying to get serious candidates to put their name forward, because it's the same electorate, more or less.
I think, from memory, I think that's 150.
Can we move to maybe...
I think John and Paul. Did Paul have a question?
If you could just raise your hand, please, because I can't see the hands going up.
John at table 10.
Okay, John at table 10, thank you. Thanks.
Thanks very much. It's more of a comment than a question, actually, and it's just something we discussed at our group. It's just to, I suppose, because our terms of reference talk about a transfer of power to local government, as well as the directly elected mayor. It's just to reflect that adequately in the questions. And I suppose, in particular, one of the concerns we discussed was avoiding a situation where you have too much power is transferred to a single individual, and there aren't sufficient checks and balances. In other words, for want of a better word, you have a Boris Johnson scenario with the London mayor. But so I suppose what
sorry, John, if I just could,
I
will come back to you on that exact point, but I want to focus in on the ballot paper number 3. The candidates must, the point that Paddy raised around the 100 statute declaration. So can I just focus in on that point? Does anybody have any more comments on that?
So can I come back in on that then?
Please, if you have a point just specifically on that.
Yeah, but
I will come back to the one later on.
You can come back. Can I come back in on the other point then later? Yeah.
Yeah, but do you have a point on the 100 declarations?
No, not right now.
Okay, thanks, Joe. But I will come back to you. Any more comments on that? The 100 declarations we do from table 9. Ross. Thanks, Ross.
I would just say on both the question of the signatures or the deposit, it should probably be, we probably shouldn't vote on a specific number, maybe just have some sort of wording saying an appropriate number, as you say, but not excessively, should not be excessive requirement that would limit.
We'll put if it is the wishes of the room, we'll put it appropriate on the ballot paper, and in the text of the report we can talk about the feelings of the room that it has to manage that tension between making it too free and too restrictive.
Yeah.
So,
okay, thanks, Ross. Table 8 with John. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, just two questions on the amount, and I forget the councillor's name there. Deirdre suggesting 1,000. Is that consistent with individuals putting their name forward and also people from political parties putting their name forward, that they would both have to do that? It wouldn't be weighted against the individual? Yeah. And the second question I have is, what's the kind of overwhelmingly critical, potentially catastrophic consequence of people putting their name forward frivolously? Is that really a massive concern that would really gum up the system? So in other words, I just think it should be proportionate. You know, to go from 100, and you described that in different countries, I think the limit you said was 200, to jump to 1,000 just seems really dramatic.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the appropriate one. Might solve that. Table 5 and Janice, please. Table 5. Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks very much. Now, can you just give us an example? I think it'll help of how it works now, say for the presidential election. Will you just give the room an example of how many signatures somebody would have to get for going forward for the president, and what the restrictions are in relation to that? Because I don't know whether people are aware of the amount of signatures that you'd need, statutory signatures that you'd need for that specific role. And then it might give us an understanding of what would be required for this. I just think we need to open it up to more people rather than restrict it. That's my personal preference. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, maybe just to follow on from Paul's first question. If you're nominated by a political party, you don't have to go and collect signatures, you know, because it is assumed that a political party is organised, then they will be able to produce the signatures, so you'd be putting them through that for no reason, you know. But this is your ballot paper. You can do whatever you like with it. To be honest, Paul. So, on Janice's point, I mean the two numbers here probably that are relevant here. So, to get yourself on a ballot paper in a local election in the city of Dublin, you require 15 statutory declarations. To get yourself on the European Parliament ballot paper in the constituency of Dublin, you require 150. So 100 was between 15 and 150, but we can leave it like that, or we can change it to appropriate and allow the government and the policy specialists to decide the number. Yeah,
and just conscious of time, there were 13 minutes on this one particular item, and so time is compressing. So last one on
Nicole. Yeah.
Nicole, please, table 4. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I'm Nicole. I suppose my concern around the 100 numbers would be that in smaller groups like that, it's statutory, it's declarations, therefore you're going to your solicitor, you're paying 15, 20 euro to have that, I suppose, accounted for. I would worry in, I suppose, more disadvantaged, lower income areas, that would mean someone would struggle to run based on the fact that a lot of people wouldn't have that money to just walk into a solicitor's and go, I want to put this down as a statutory signature. That would be my concern.
Okay, thanks. Can we go with the appropriate wording?
Well, just show of hands, maybe, Chairman.
If we use the word appropriate amount, appropriate figure, can we just get a show of hands, a sense check? Would we like to amend ballot paper? I'm looking against maybe against that change. We've 1, 2 against. Okay, so
we'll make the change.
We'll make the change, okay, to reflect an appropriate amount.
People who don't agree with it can feel free to say no on the ballot paper as well, to vote against this proposal. So this isn't your only opportunity. So yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go back to John next. John, just that point you're making, thank you. Table 10.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. So I suppose the point that I'd like to make, and I think we discussed it at our table, was just to ensure that we reflect the need for a transfer of power to local government, and not simply the directly elected mayor. And I suppose that's because it's in our terms of reference, but also to avoid a too great concentration of power in the hands of a single individual. So the changes we were looking at was potentially on ballot paper 1 to reflect that the ballot paper 1, the title would be the powers of the mayor and local government. And secondly, on ballot paper 2, I suppose on the same line, that in terms of the independent financing, that while I think it is reasonable that the directly elected mayor should have a budget and should be able to seek to raise funding, but that no single individual should be able to set a budget by themselves, and no single individual should be able to raise money by themselves. That gives a great deal of power to a single office holder, so that it should be that the directly elected mayor and local government should retain funds from taxes raised in Dublin. And secondly, that the directly elected mayor, in conjunction with local government, should be able to change or introduce local taxes. Now, I know people will have views on whether or not, and it's something we'll vote on local taxes, but that's just to make sure that the role of local government and the role of councillors is adequately represented within the decision making.
Okay, thanks John. So just go through that. I'm picking up that you've got 3 changes, John. If you just hold the mic again. So the first change, we'll take them one by one, is on ballot paper 1. The title of ballot paper 1 will read ballot paper 1 hyphen powers of the mayor and local government. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So thank you. So could I just have a show of hands? Do you accept that amendment?
Okay, done.
And those who might be against? 2, 4. So it carries. So the amendment will be to read for Cahill, ballot paper 1 hyphen powers of the mayor and local government. That's the first one. The second was on ballot paper number 2, where you see the very last table on the bottom of the page. We have the, and then in capital letters DEM. The proposal is to, where we have DEM, we replace it with DEM in conjunction with local government. Is that acceptable, John?
Yeah, that's fine, Jim. Yeah.
Okay.
So technically, what we'll do, we'll put an asterisk after DEM in those 3 questions, and at the bottom of the sheet, we'll put the asterisk in conjunction with local government, and we'll fix it for the report.
Is that acceptable, John? Is that John? Just I will go to 9 in a sec. John, are you?
Yeah, I think that covers it. Perhaps for the third one, it might be even more specific. If there's a proposal on local taxation, probably I personally would suggest a wording of the DEM in conjunction with local government institutions, just so it's very clear that if that is voted for in the end, that it isn't a single individual that's doing it. But I'm interested in other views as well.
Okay. While Art is just talking to, I'm going to go to table 9, then table 3. Please, table 9. Just again, just introduce yourself, please, and stand up if you can. Thank you.
Sophie from table 9. On this point, I think it's important not to make it more complicated as it is. I think a directly elected mayor, then on one of the ballots, it surely explains that he's not or she is not the only one in charge of the city, and we will have citizens' assembly, Dublin City and County Assembly, and a plenary session. And there's plenty of other town, or maybe whatever we choose. But from this, it's kind of explanatory that the elected mayor is not the only one making decisions. And what's a local authority institution? Are we including the civil servants in that? I think it might be maybe a bit make it more complicated. Thank you.
Okay, so you're looking at ballot paper 4, was it?
No, we're doing 1 to 3.
No, I know we are, but you're looking. So we're going to deal with ballot paper 4 and 5 in the afternoon. So we need a mic, please. Sorry, thank you. And sorry, what can you make?
Yeah.
Can you make a proposed change?
But the proposed change is not to change and keep it to DEM, and then if we make it too complicated to add local authority, what do we mean by local authority? Do we include the civil servants? I mean, any scheme we come up with, the Dublin elected mayor is not going to be the only one taking all the decisions anyway.
Okay, so
I would argue to keep it simple and keep it to, on ballot number 1, powers of the mayor, and remove the rest and not include with. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sophie. So we could table 3, then 7 with Barry, and then 10 with John.
Thanks, Chair. Shane is my name from Table 3, and we have a few suggestions. In the interest of brevity, I'll just go through them very quickly. The first amendment we would make is to the list of assumptions to read the power of initiative.
Sorry, Shane. I just want to deal with.
Sorry.
I will come back to you. I will come back to you. Yeah. I just want to take them in sequence. If you can just have patience with me, I just want to deal with them item by item. So we're still on John's point. What Sophie's making, that John's proposing to. We've voted already on ballot paper number 1. It's ballot paper number 2. The proposal is that the table at the bottom of the page, the very last row, John wants to have the DEM in conjunction should be able to change or introduce the local taxes, or the 3 of them. Yeah. Okay, sorry, for the 3, with the DEM in conjunction with local government.
Yeah, and Sophie's point was that, well, what does local government mean? Does that include civil servants?
Yeah.
So that's the point that John wants to go back on.
Yeah. So is there anybody who wants to make any more points just on table 7? Do you want to make a point on that specific issue, Barry?
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to support John's suggestion. And I suppose fundamentally, the previous changes that were made bring a little bit more of the local councillor's role into what we're actually voting on the ballot paper, and those amendments have already been done. But just stating the DEM without any reference to, on this particular question, without any reference to local councils, that's a fundamental change of the role of a councillor. You're removing, in effect, the power of local taxation or the power of local levies from the role of councillors fully. Absolutely gone. And one of the fundamentals that I've picked up over the last number of months is that most people here are in favour of more powers to local councils rather than completely removing one of the fundamental powers they have on local taxation. So local taxation should have an element of local autonomy and local responsibility. As a councillor, if I bring in a local tax and you don't like it, you should be able to throw me out of office. But again, money staying locally and local taxation is essential that the local councils still have a role in it. As with the DEM, both should have a strong role in it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Barry. Just may I ask before I go to table 4, Barry, just confirm, I understand the point you're making, but are you making any proposed amendments to what John's proposing, the DEM, in conjunction with local government? Yeah, you're happy. Okay. I am conscious now we're dealing a lot with councillors, very important part of this process, but we're going now into table 4, Deirdre, Nicole, and then off to Paul again on table 8. And again, I'm conscious of time. We're now approaching 35 minutes before we break.
Thank you very much, John. I'll be very brief on this. I think this is, I know it's all important, but this is extremely a very, very important issue. I just want to support John and Barry as well. That there are issues already there where councillors do make decisions, for example, the increase and decrease on property tax in a few weeks' time, budgets in relation to parking charges and a lot of other things. I think it's really important that they stay within the control of councillors.
Okay.
And therefore, I would support this. And if people are a little bit worried about the term local government, maybe local democratically elected representatives, and allow them to make that decision. But those decisions still should remain within the councillors' control. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Deirdre. So again, if you don't have any particular issue with the wording, I'd be keen to move on, but I'm going to go to Janice, then to Paul on this specific issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose my main concern is that we're just overcomplicating it, quite frankly. The whole point of us sitting here and talking about directly elected mayor was that they would almost be like the spearhead of local government. So therefore, I would assumed that the responsibilities councillors have currently, it would be more around the policy and legislative that the DEM would have control, especially when it comes to things like raise funds for, or sorry, not for the proportion of any taxes raised in Dublin. I would have assumed, as the DEM would be sitting over the whole of Dublin, that those taxes coming back into the DEM would then be distributed evenly, or how the DEM saw fit. I just feel like it's very much too many cooks spoiled the broth if we start overcomplicating it.
Okay, thanks. And finally, I think we're going to go to table 8, and then John, if you want to have the final say. And I'm keen now to have a show of hands very shortly. Paul?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, just in case she's feeling lonely, I'd like to support Sophie, I think it was, here at this table. I think it's a question of definition. If we agree with John's amendment, how broad is that? That you just potentially gum up the system with every single, local councillor, the 4 divisions, Fingal, etc., all having, a veto over what the directly elected mayor should do. And I know that we don't want to be discussing this one yet because that's for the afternoon session, but it very much depends on the model that we end up agreeing on in terms of a directly elected mayor with his cabinet or whatever the case may be. So I just feel it's a little premature to either say just the DEM has these powers, because it won't be the case that just the DEM has those powers, but also that the whole apparatus of local government should be consulted before we decide on the actual model. It just seems premature.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Final say with John, and then I have a proposal. If you just keep it brief, John, as well. Thank you.
I will indeed, and thanks to everyone for the comments. Maybe just to clarify, this change is intended to refer to, as Deirdre said, to democratically elected local representatives. Yeah. So it doesn't refer to the executive, it doesn't refer to the civil servants, and that's just to address the point that Sophie made. I don't believe it overcomplicates it. I believe it clarifies it so that it's consistent with the questions in ballot paper 4. All it says essentially is that the mayor, or the directly elected mayor, would not have effectively the power to raise taxes or to set budgets purely by themselves.
Okay.
There has to be checks and balances, and that means they do it in conjunction with democratically elected local representatives. So I don't really think that's overcomplicated. It's straightforward. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to make a proposal. Ross, if you really have to, do you want to come in? I want to give you the chance. So table 9 and Ross.
Sorry, yeah. The only thing is, if you're opposed to the mayor having tax raising powers, then you vote no on that proposal. You shouldn't change what the proposal says. You should. This is a question of what powers should the mayor have or should he not have. That's what it is. It says the DEM should be able to change or introduce local taxes. Currently, that's the power of local councils. But so if you're opposed to that, you simply vote no on that. So you don't need to change the ballot paper.
Okay, thanks, Ross. And I don't think we need the right to reply, because I'm just going to make a proposal. Is that it's quite straightforward. It's a yes, or we go what's being proposed, or no, we stick with what we have. So the yes, what I'm proposing is that on ballot paper number 2, the last table where we see DEM, we will say we'll have an asterisk and it'll say the DEM, and the asterisk is in conjunction with local democratically elected representatives. So that's the proposal. So the change is, the amendment is the DEM asterisk, and the asterisk refers to in conjunction with local democratically elected representatives. So it's a yes, or that, or no, we stick with what we have. So can I have a Lavasus, hands up please for yes. Who might have to count now.
3. Can a number of the staff count here as well? By the way, we'll need a count here.
Sorry, Lorraine, could you just do make sure we validate our, we'll give our number out first.
31. What's your number, Lorraine?
35. Did we agree at 35?
Okay. And now
did we agree, Carl? We got 31. You got 31. Okay, so just keep your hands up, please. There's a difference there. So we have to table. So we go table 1. Table 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I have a number in my head.
Right? Say it out loud. 37.
I get 35.
Tim, what number? What's your number? 37. All right. 37 seems to be the number.
37, okay. If any objections to that, for those who say remain, paper should not change, should not be amended, for this particular point, could you please stand up?
Okay, so what's the number? 27. Okay. Now, we just need to clarify that the amendment here is carried and that we will reflect that in the text of the report.
Yeah. Okay, so that amendment has been carried. However, for those, we will reflect what has happened right now in the report, that there was a diversion of opinion, but in line with our key principles of the Assembly, that equality of voice, fairness, respect, everybody has got the opportunity there to give their views. Okay, so we'll now move on. Is there any Shane, sorry.
Oh, Schieffer. Yeah.
Schieffer is going to take from table 3. Again, if we can just, I'm conscious of time, we've got 28 minutes left. So we are keeping the schedule, so we need to move on quickly. So it's table 3, then 8, then 6, then 9.
Hi, Shifra from table 3. We have a few. The first one was on ballot paper 1, the yellow one, to add emergency services as one of the functions or responsibilities to vote on. Emergency services.
Emergency, sorry?
Services.
Emergency services.
Ambulances, fire
Okay,
brigades,
so you have a number of amendments. Is that the only amendment you have on that? I know, but do you have anything else to add on that particular point?
No.
Okay, so we have now have an amendment to add on ballot paper number 1. There'll be an extra row, be row 19, and we'll say emergency function responsibility, emergency services. Does anybody have any comments on that amendment? Just on that particular amendment? Okay, again, show of hands to support and show of hands.
Yeah, we have Rachel.
Rachel has a comment. Table 1, thank you.
I'm just clarifying, from relation to voting for amendments, is there an option to abstain? Because I think in the last vote that it wasn't full representative of the people that's here, so I think that needs to be clarified, that if there's an abstention, that's noted. Personally, I don't think anybody should be here and participating if they're willing to abstain on something, so just if that can be clarified.
Yeah, people have always had the right to abstain, Rachel, and people will have the right to say, I don't know or have no opinion as well on an issue. I agree that probably it would be a little bit odd, but it's a bit like voting. You absolutely have the right. Pardon? No, we'll capture it in the ballot, to be honest. So people will say, I don't know, or they'll abstain on particular questions. So, but this is just simply a show of hands to determine the questions of the ballots. But the right to abstain is absolutely enshrined. Everybody should have it. Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah. Same principle.
Are you suggesting we show of hands for those who abstain? Is it? Is that to capture the data?
Yeah. No,
okay.
But I think the decision is clear, though. I mean, we know how to proceed, so and we don't need to know who abstained, nor should we ask people to identify themselves unless we absolutely have to. I would have thought.
Are you happy to proceed in that way?
Just so emergency services.
I just want to clarify. Are you happy to proceed? I just want to be fair. You are. Okay. Thank you. Can I have a show of hands, please, for that proposed amendment to add an extra row, column 19, row 19, emergency services. Show of hands, please, to support.
Yeah, okay, we'll put it on.
And just those who are against. So the amendment carries. Yeah. You have that, Cathal? Just give me a thumbs up if you have it.
I have
there, yeah, thanks. Okay. we're back to Shifa. How many more have you got? 4? No, how many? I'm just, again, conscious of time now. Could you just let me know how many?
About 5 or 6.
You have 5 or 6?
They're very...
Okay, can you maybe prioritise one? I'll give you another one, because I do have...
Were any of them submitted during the week when we asked people to submit? Anyway,
I don't
listen.
think
Okay,
so. Okay.
just
No, just go with them.
Well, go with them, yeah.
Go with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next amendment was to change number 6 on ballot paper 1 to further higher education and skills rather than tertiary and third level, just
Okay,
to...
sorry, just to echo in the room.
I'll be slower. Yeah, so it was to change number 6 to further higher education and skills rather than tertiary and third level, just for clarity.
No problem, we'll do that, yeah.
The next one was...
Okay, it's your hands. Anybody against that proposal might be the quickest way. Okay, so thank you, Sheila. That's carried. Next one, please.
Ballot paper 3, question 2.
Ballot paper 3, question 2.
To be included on the ballot paper, a candidate may rather than must, just so that it's clear that there are multiple options.
Okay, so a candidate may rather than replace the word must. Again, a show of hands who are against that amendment. So, okay. So, so what's been proposed here is ballot paper number 3, table 2, to be included on the ballot paper, comma, a candidate may, not must, may. Is that correct?
Yeah, the thinking on that was just so that it was clear that someone could do any of the options, but if that's already clear to people, then I think that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they select all options that apply, and there's also a no restrictions one as well, so I think it's covered, so
Yeah.
So do you want to withdraw that amendment?
Drop it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's withdrawn.
Yep. Then same section, gather an appropriate number of statutory declarations of support from the electorate we were proposing rather than from the citizens of Dublin.
Okay.
Followed by a question.
Okay, so I just need to go on. I need to...
The question's directly related.
Okay.
Followed by a question underneath about who the electorate is. Whether that is those eligible to vote for council elections, so residents over 18, or closer aligned to those eligible to vote for Dáil elections, which is citizens over 18.
Okay. Well, which would you like?
I'd like it posed as a question to the Assembly.
You'd like
it
that
included
to be
as a question
split
to be
into
voted on.
2 to add a second question.
Another question that the
in
Assembly
relation
votes on.
in relation to the statutory declaration.
So to amend this, to say the support from the electorate, and then moving on from that to add a question to the Assembly of who is eligible to vote for a directly elected mayor, whether it's residents or citizens.
Okay, so you're proposing a new question. Should the electorate should be comprised of?
Residents over 18 or citizens over 18?
As in residents of Dublin?
Residents of Dublin.
Yeah.
Or citizens?
Or citizens residing in Dublin.
So, well, the question is people who are entitled to vote in local authority elections or residents of Dublin. So
currently, you can vote for local elections if you're a resident in Dublin. But if we look at the ballot there, it says specifically statutory declarations of support from the citizens of Dublin.
Yeah, but
I don't think that we're at a point for that assumption to be made. So I would look for the question of whether the electorate has to be citizens or whether they can simply be residents of Dublin.
Okay. All right, I got that. So
okay, so the first amendment that's been proposed, the next amendment that's been proposed is that on ballot paper 3, table 2, gather 100. Okay, that's going to be appropriate statutory declarations of support from the electorate. The word electorate replaces the word citizens of Dublin. Do we have
anyone against?
Anyone against?
Yeah.
Is it a question related to that, Barry? Okay, so table 7, please.
Sorry, just to clarify the definition of electorate, is that people on the electoral register or? everyone.
Yeah, so that's the next question. So the next question, Art, you might have picked up more than I did, so I'll just hand over to Art to explain a proposed new question.
So the electorate here is that we have changed the statutory declaration is from the electorate, and then the new question that they would like to add, whether it is the residents of Dublin who are currently entitled to vote in local elections.
I'll try and summarise it. We have defined all the rules around who should stand. We haven't actually said who should vote for them. So the question, what we're suggesting is there should be a question on the ballot paper that says, who is the electorate for the directly elected Mayor of Dublin? Is it those who are entitled to vote at local elections at the moment, or is it those that are only entitled to vote at all elections? It's just a clarification question for who the electorate is, and then everything else flows from that.
Could you just repeat that back? I'm just going to ask Art to repeat it back, and then I've got some questions on it.
So,
again,
who is entitled to vote in an election for a directly elected mayor? It is the electorate comprised of residents of Dublin or those entitled to vote in all elections.
Is it as simple as that? Okay, so that's the proposed amendment. Now, we've got a question on that from table 1, and then table 9 and table 10. 1, 9, 10, and 6 and 8.
How are you? I'm Brian on table 1. Is that not covered already by who's entitled to vote in local elections? That's not a question for us. Okay, right. I don't see the point in that, because I think that's already put down by somebody else.
Okay, well,
where's the forward? Okay, yeah, we're going to ask the room anyway. Do they want to vote this? Just while we're at table 1, any?
Yeah, I wonder would it just fall from the first one rather than making it more complicated? So whatever we decide in the first, who should have the criteria directly elected mayor, that should follow the criteria for the next one.
So we're asking who's eligible to vote for that?
Yeah, so whoever we're saying is eligible to run should be eligible to vote. So if we're saying we want it to be aligned with the council election, well then it's aligned with the council electorate. If we want it to be aligned with the Dáil electorate criteria, well then that falls.
Yeah.
That would seem to make logical sense to me.
There's a nuance there, but it's
I think there are two different questions here, because there are things in presidential elections, for instance, you have to be over 35 to run, but everyone over 18 is entitled to vote. Yeah. So the voting and eligibility for candidacy are two separate questions, and if the room believes we should, then say.
So the point has been made, so we're going to go to 9, 10, 6 and 8, just on this particular topic. Thank you.
On this one.
Yes.
Yeah, just on this particular topic, we had this question and we asked Brit what was done in Limerick and everywhere else, and she said everywhere else it was the local, the same voting rules applied as for a local election. Yeah. So if you're allowed to vote for councillors, you're allowed to go for the plebiscite for the directly elected mayor, and if that was chosen, then you would, be then able to vote for the directly elected mayor. So rather than putting a new question, do we just need to put an asterisk next to electorate and say local voting rules or local voting electorate or something like that to make it just really clear that it's the same group of people voting for the directly elected mayor, for the plebiscite and for councils?
Okay, thank
same
you.
Group.
Point taken, but there's obviously table 3 are seeking clarification, and in line with our principles, everyone there's an equality of voice. So we're at table 9 is next, please. Table 9. Did somebody ask from table 9? Sorry, table 10. Excuse me. Table 10, then 6, then 8. Just on this particular point.
Yeah.
It's straightforward enough, I think, for me. But so if there's nothing to add to the clarification, can we just move on?
No, just to say, I just want to agree with Shifra. I think citizens should be replaced by electorate, and I think there is a case for a second question there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, John. Table 6, you're happy enough. And table 8? Okay, so the amendment is that on ballot paper number 3, to be new table, and they say the electorate will be comprised of
residents of Dublin.
And this is the question, your tick box, residents of Dublin, or the other choice is those entitled to vote in Dáil elections. We have one question from our comment from table 8.
Yeah, sorry, it was just in relation to ballot paper 1.
No,
it's relevant to every question.
It's relevant, okay.
When we raised the question of whether in the future was defined or not, we were told it actually is. It's defined as 0 to 5 years, but where? And that's really concerning if it's defined and it's not on the ballot paper.
Okay, that's a different question.
No, but are there other things defined that we don't know about? We were told that this is defined, but it's not defined in the ballot paper. So are there other things that we're deciding on that are defined elsewhere that are not contained in the ballot paper? It's a question.
Can we come back to us when we've dealt with this?
Can we come back to that when we deal with this issue? Yeah. Okay, can I have a show of hands? If somebody wants me to repeat what the proposed amendment from Table 3 is, don't see any clarification. You want me to repeat it? Okay. So what I'm proposing is, that's a new table. It's a question. The question is, the electorate is comprised of option 1, residents of Dublin. Option 2, those entitled to vote in Dáil elections. Those are the two options. So you'll tick either box. Or
so do people show of hands on whether we want to include that question on the ballot.
Does that make it clear?
Yeah.
So if that makes it clear, to make it clear. So this with the mic, so I can hear, but there's everybody else. So the question, so the point is
it's
that
the eligible electorate in Dublin. I think it probably, because residents alone isn't actually eligible in some circumstances to vote.
Yeah, not all residents in Dublin are entitled to vote in a local election. I think that's the point that Rachel's making. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But that makes it simple.
Okay, so your proposal is local?
Yeah.
Local elected register or Dáil elected register. Okay, so
who wants that question?
This is the proposed amendment from Table 3. It's a new table on ballot paper number 3. The question is, the electorate should comprise of option 1 would be local elected, those on the local elected register. Is that correct? Electoral register. Option 2 is those on the Dáil elected register. Electoral register. Is that correct? So could I show hands who support? Ooh.
Okay,
1, 2, 3,
against,
4, 5, 6.
yeah.
Against maybe. Yeah. Against might be better. Okay, the amendment is passed. We've got 12 minutes left, so I'm conscious now. So to comment from Dave, this is a new amendment. I'm going to go back to number 8, and then I go to number 4, and then to 5. 8, 4, 8,
Who has a question on 8?
4, 5, 6, 12. That might be it then. Okay. So 8, please. New amendment.
Yeah, it's that same question. Can I just answer that? Just the time frame for in the future. What came from the report at the last meeting was people had envisaged a 5 to 10 year time frame for that particular issue. And rather than being restrictive, because we don't know when it's going to start, and et cetera, there was some other feeling that if the mayor made a good fist of some of the additional powers, that it shouldn't necessarily be 5 to 10, but at some point, following the successful devolution of powers to the mayor, it's at some point, just not now for the first 5 years. So that's what came from your reports.
That's not clear from the ballot paper, though, and my concern is that things are being defined
in
a room somewhere that's not clear to the people who are actually voting.
Would you like 5 to 10 years to be put?
That was our proposal, and then we were clarified that actually here's what it means. Okay. So the concern is that when we raised the proposed amendment, we were told, no, that's defined, but it's not on the ballot paper.
Okay,
so 5 to 10 years.
So the proposal here from Table 8 is that ballot paper 1, in the future, there'll be an asterisk beside in future, and it's 5 to 10 years.
No, it was 0 to 5.
0 to
because
5.
It needed to be finite and not in the distant future.
Okay, so could you just read what you're...
Excuse me, or it could be 0 to 5, 5 to 10, but it needed to be defined.
Okay, could you just propose your amendment? Just what you want, what text you want?
Well, now, can I just say, now is 0 to 5. So
But again, that isn't clear on the ballot paper, and this is my point.
Okay, well, I'll put 0 to 5 at now and 5 to 10 in the future.
That's an important point to
Okay,
clarify.
everybody happy with that? Sorry, Chair. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody, we're going to have to vote this, so we're proposing is now is 0 to 5, in the future is
5 to 10.
5 to 10. So we'll put little brackets below that.
So
Anybody against that? No. Okay, Paul, do you have a point on that? On that? Okay, so there's a sequence, so you're coming after 12. It's down to table 4, please.
Just on ballot paper 1, we were just wondering about the wording of 18, whether that should be changed to support for the traveller and Roma communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
anyone against that? Yeah. Just go straight to anyone against that.
Travel and Roma, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody against that proposal for row 18? Support for travel community, including Roma.
Yeah.
That's carried. That's table 5, please.
Table 5 wondered if we
So
should...
just Mike, get close to that. Thank you very much.
Francis from table 5.
Just your name, please.
Francis.
Thanks, Francis. Thank you.
From table 5. So we wondered whether we should change, instead of should councillors be made full-time, to should councillors be offered a full-time position or have the option of a full-time position. And the reasoning was to make it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible and to not exclude any group that may want to do, some other small paid role.
Okay, so Francis, you're on ballot paper 3. It's the third table. And could you just read out your proposal? What are you proposing to amend? Just what text would you like to see?
So ballot paper 3, councillor hours, first part, instead of should councillors be made full-time, change it to should councillors be have the option of a full-time position or be offered a full-time position.
Have the option.
Anyone against that?
Okay, so the amendment is should the table 3 text currently reads should councillors be made full-time ? The amendment is should councillors have the option of full-time. Is that correct? Those against? No. Those against, hands up in the air, please. Okay, so
wait for the microphone, Nicole.
Sorry, can you just clarify again so people are clear what's the for and what's the against?
Okay, yeah, thanks. So, ballot paper number 3, table 3, which is councillor hours. It currently reads the first row, should councillors be made full-time ? The proposed amendment from Francis is should councillors have the option of full-time ? So, I'm asked show of hands who is against that proposed amendment.
Okay, Lorraine, will you count as well, please? What's your number? 30. Okay, and 4 then.
4?
Yeah, no, for the proposal. Yeah, for the amendment. That was against, was it?
No, that was against the amendment.
Against
so
the
who is voting to keep the text as it is?
No, that's what they've just voted on that. That's the 30. Yeah. So
okay, let's do it again. Who wants to vote for the amendment? Okay, for the amendment. But the amendment reads, should councillors have the option of full-time? Who wants to vote for that amendment? Okay, that's a bit clearer. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, it's lost. Yeah.
Okay, make it 12, is it? Okay. So just to make sure for transparency and openness, did I get that right? I did? Great. Okay, Francis, can I move on? Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was table 5. Now table 6. And we've now 5 minutes left. Table 6.
Behind you, Conor. Yeah.
God, it's tough work. You're all doing a great job, guys.
Don't make it harder now, Luke. Yeah.
Okay, we have just 4 amendments proposed, but 2 short ones. So let's start with
Okay,
those.
so just read out the ballot paper first.
Ballot paper 3.
Ballot paper 3.
Last question: should councillors be provided with secretarial support? We're just proposing that the only or both should be added to the bottom of that. So
the what?
So in the councillor hours, 2 questions above, there's
No,
only.
we didn't catch
the first one.
your first
Okay,
one.
so-
Can you just propose the current text and the
So
amended
should
text?
councillors be provided with secretarial support? We're proposing 2 additional questions. Only councillors who are the new Dublin City and County Assembly should be provided with secretarial support, or both local councillors and councillors on the new Dublin City Assembly?
Okay, the
Should,
same.
yes or no for
the
both?
same as the full-time question. Yeah.
Yeah. So do we need to vote on that, or? But that's the first one.
Yeah. So it's basically, should councillors be provided with secretarial support? So they want that choice here. Only councillors who are on the new county assembly, if it exists, and then both local councillors and councillors on the new Dublin Assembly.
That they're included.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a specific proposal to give secretarial support only to those 2 categories.
Okay, so is it my interpretation on that the ballot paper 3, the last question, should councillors be provided with secretarial support? That you're now saying should councillors who are on a new Dublin City and local assembly be provided with secretarial support? And another question, should local councillors and councillors on the new Dublin City and County Assembly be provided with secretarial support?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, both yes or no.
Okay.
questions.
So it's either or, and you select one option.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody need me to read that back? So, who's against that amendment? Who's against that amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm getting 9.
Yeah, it's for it. Yeah.
Okay. So the amendment carries. Is that accepted?
Yeah, no, ask.
Do we need to talk about it more?
Okay, who's for the amendment? Should be everybody else.
Yeah.
Logically.
Well, except for the abstainers, yeah.
Okay, the abstainers, okay.
Right, so it's carries,
Excuse me,
yeah.
I should have, of course, I should have done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, could just hands up again, please, thank you. 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
it's carries, yeah. So we'll make that amendment.
Just wait for Lorraine, just for the record. Could you keep your hands up, please? I'll just love a suit until we get the count for the record. $34. So the amendment carries. And apologies, I should have obviously asked because there's obviously some people abstaining. Thank you. You have one more amendment, Luke?
One more amendment, ballot 2. Should there be, on the second question, for the role of the mayor?
So ballot paper number? 2.
Ballot paper number 2.
Thank you. And?
The second question for the role of the mayor, we're proposing to add another question before that. Just a yes or no. Should there be a mechanism to remove the mayor? Yes or no?
Should there be which?
Should there be a mechanism to remove the mayor? Should there be a mechanism to remove the mayor? Yes or no?
It's on the ballot paper. It's question number 4 on that ballot paper.
Should there be methods to remove
a mechanism?
A mechanism.
To remove the mayor. So it's question number 4 on that ballot paper.
1, 2, 3, 4.
If the mayor were to be removed.
If the mayor were to be removed from office.
That's the
Yeah, but
mechanism.
we're just saying that there should be a yes or no before that question. Because it's assuming that there's no option to say that the mayor shouldn't be, there should be no mechanism.
Okay, so you're proposing ballot paper number 2, a new question.
Yeah.
And the new question is, should there be a mechanism to remove the Lord Mayor?
Yes.
Is that correct?
So that goes in just before question
And
number
that's
4.
is that a yes/no answer?
Yes, no.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have any comments on this? And one from John, table 10.
Yeah, thanks for the amendments. I just have some reservations about including that. I think that would probably make the mayor one of the, it could make the mayor one of the very few office holders where there is no provision to remove a mayor. I'm just not sure we want to do that.
Yeah, and can I just say that I understand why you asked the question, Luke, but it did appear from the reports from the roundtable discussions the last time that there was almost unanimous support for a mechanism to remove the mayor, and which is why it didn't appear.
It just came up today, as currently there's no mechanism directly to remove, like from the electorate to remove councillors, for example. So we just wanted it as a question on the paper to clarify that.
Yeah, well, actually, do you want to put it in as an assumption rather than changing the ballot paper?
If the room agrees.
Yeah. I mean, are the room happy enough to say that the mayor can be removed from office for stated misbehaviour?
Okay, so can I have a show of hands for the record if the assembly members are happy with that? That's one of the assumptions that we'll stitch into the report. Yeah. So and this show of hands, those against that particular. Luke, those against that. Okay, so that.
Please don't vote against the thing you asked for.
That's a correction. That's a correction, or that's an addition to the report for the secretariat.
We have the last
one more. Okay.
So on ballot paper 1, the table felt really strongly that housing should be separate to homelessness. Homelessness should be its own power to be dissolved and voted on.
Okay. So thanks, Luke. So what the proposal is, ballot paper 1. You've got row 10. Proposal from Luke is that there'll be a new part to be the amendment is to remove the word homelessness and give it its own unique row. So there'll be a separate row for homelessness. So the amendment will be you have a row for function, responsibility, housing, and a separate row for homelessness. Is that correct, Luke? Yeah. Could I have a vote of those who are against that proposal? And show of hands, please, for that amendment. Luke?
Lorraine, let's count these again.
So again, we're voting those 4 to split housing and homeless into 2 separate rows.
And are these people in favour of that?
So these are in favour of the amendment. You're in favour of that amendment.
No. Okay.
33. Okay, and those against that amendment to split them into 2 separate parts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. It's okay. No, it's clear.
6.
Yeah, we'll split them.
7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the amendment is carried. What I'm going to do now, I'm keen to be fair to everybody, so I'm going to keep running to get the amendments. It might eat into the time you have for coffee or for etc., but we're going to keep moving. We've got number table. Sorry, it was 12, 8, and then 9. So it's table 12, 8, then 9. You were going to say
yeah, no, I was going to say 11. Yeah.
Table 12, my name is Jacqueline. I wonder, could we include infrastructure and both road and pathway repairs in paper number 1? Because I don't know how I would vote for that.
Sorry, the acoustics with my hearing isn't great in the hall, so you maybe just keep the background noise just down a little bit lower, and you could just repeat that again. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wonder, could we include infrastructure, road and pathway repairs? I don't see it on the ballot paper 1, or where I could vote for that.
It's kind of it's point number 12.
Okay.
And apologies for putting it in now, but I just this morning it just occurred to me that that wasn't on the ballot paper.
Infrastructure, roads, pathways, repairs. You want to pop that in a new row?
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, so the proposed amendment from table 12. Sorry, I missed your name? Jacqueline, sorry, I do like to see it, Jacqueline. So Jacqueline's proposal is to introduce a new row on ballot paper 1, which would be one of the functions and responsibilities will be, and this is the new text, infrastructure, roads, pathways, repairs. Is that correct? Okay, will there be a show of hands against that amendment? Okay, 13. $13, yeah? 15 you got. Okay. Show of hands. That was
against the amendment.
No, that was against the amendment. For.
That was for the amendment.
Okay, that was just clarify. That was for the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long morning.
Oh.
That was against it. All right. All right. So to clarify, that was against the amendment. Could I have a show of hands, please, for that amendment to include the words infrastructure, roads, pathways, and repairs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Oh, it's going to be tight. So it carries, yeah?
Yes.
17. So the amendment carries. Are the Assembly members happy with that count?
Yeah, just on that particular issue, with something like this, which is a simple yes or no, I mean, if you don't agree with it, just simply vote against it. This is built for never. So nothing is gained or lost by having it on the ballot paper. Just vote against it. That's all, if you firmly believe that. So we will include it and give you the opportunity to give a resounding no, if that's how you feel.
Okay, so we've got two tables left, table 8 and table 9. Is that all? And table 5 and table 3. Table 8, please.
Thank you.
Sorry, it was Paul. It was Paul that was table 8. You can, well, that's it's your assembly, so yeah, you can. But it was you were up next in the sequence. Yeah.
Okay, thanks to table 1, is it? No, table 3, sorry, because they already, and I think it was carried, was it, to amend on ballot paper 3, the second question, must has been changed to may, right?
No. Okay, vote against that, Paul.
Oh, great. That makes my question even more relevant then. Thank you. Okay, so to have must be, and the first option is nominated by a political party. 1, it goes against the assumption list, if you read the assumption list. And 2, I guess, is it even constitutional that we're going to say that anyone who goes forward to be a directly elected mayor must be nominated by a political party?
No, it's a menu from which you are choosing. It's not.
No, but if it's chosen, if that gets chosen, then it seems to me that it's against the Constitution. So my proposed amendment is that you add a second question. The first one reads, must be nominated by a political party, and the second question is, must not be nominated by a political party.
Well, Paul, I mean, there's an option there already for no restrictions.
No restrictions, unless you put it under each question. Let me finish. If you just have no restrictions as an item under all questions, and if you tick no restrictions, you're presumably saying no restrictions for any of the above.
Correct.
So that I agree with gathering names, I agree with providing a deposit, but I don't agree with the first one. So therefore, you either have to add the question or put no restrictions under each question.
No, you just simply don't select the first one if you don't agree with it. You select all options which apply, so if you think that shouldn't be an option, then you just simply don't vote for it.
Okay, so an addendum to that is that language is important, and there's an unconscious bias here about being nominated by a political party. And it's suggestive and it's subtly implanting thoughts into people's minds. I think for balance, the two questions should be there.
I think we should deal with it. I mean, the only reason it's in, Paul, because it's reflected in every single election that we have in this country. You know, so, and I think that is democracy. If it is the wish of the members that that is not a pathway onto the ballot paper, then you simply vote against the candidacy on the basis of a nomination by a political party.
And just to read the first assumption.
Yes, and
DEM will act in the interest of Dublin's population and be above party politics.
Correct, and that's when they're in office. We have many, many institutions, and this was raised in a number of emails this week already. I mean, there are institutions like the Count Corla of Dáil Éireann who doesn't play any part. I mean, they're elected on the basis of a political party, and then they walk away from their political party obligations. And I mean, Andy Burnham spoke about this at some length when he spoke about his Manchester role as well. I think that system is pretty well embedded, but again, it's up to the members to decide.
Okay, so I'm going to just jump in here and say that we propose that if that is one of the Assembly members, you want that you want to go to a vote on that. Okay, so the amendment is there's a new table, ballot paper 3. It's table 2 to be included on the ballot paper. A candidate must, and then below be nominated by a political party, and there'll be a new row inserted. Not be nominated by a political party. Is that correct, Paul? Show of hands for those who vote agree for that amendment. That's to be inserted. To agree with, to support Paul's amendment, or the amendment that Paul has been made by Paul. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are for that amendment, and those against inserting that amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so the.
And again, I would just urge you that if you believe that Paul has a valid point, you simply don't tick that box on the ballot paper and you don't allow a pathway to candidacy via political parties. It's as straightforward as that.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So 9, 5, 3, and then back to table 8. So 9.
Hello, thanks very much. This is Natasha. We had one proposed change to ballot paper 2, question 1. Half of our table were not sure. We were split in half about what the question actually meant, so we sought clarification from A on it. So our proposed change is to reword to, should there be a plebiscite of the local electorate of Dublin as to whether or not Dublin should have a directly elected mayor? Because half of our table understood that it was asking that question, and half of the table thought it was assuming that there would be a directly elected mayor, and as to the actual role.
Yeah,
you know,
okay, thanks.
We were confused.
Yeah, so it's should there be a plebiscite of the local
electorate of Dublin as to whether or not Dublin should have a directly elected mayor. Choose yes or no.
Okay, so that's a bit quick for me to write. So should there be a plebiscite of the local electorate of Dublin?
As to whether or not Dublin should have a directly elected mayor.
Okay, I'll just read that back. So the proposed amendment is ballot paper 2, the first table, which is plebiscite. The current question is, should there be a plebiscite of the people of Dublin before the role is formally established? Your proposed amendment is, should there be a plebiscite of the electorate of Dublin as to whether or not Dublin should have a direct elected mayor? Is that correct? Okay. So could I have I'll read that back again. Table 1, plebiscite. You see what the question is, should there be a plebiscite of the people of Dublin before the role is formally established? The amendment is, should there be, and replaced in full, should there be a plebiscite of the local electorate of Dublin as to whether or not Dublin should have a directly elected mayor? Could I have a show of hands, please, to support that amendment? Okay, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah, I think just if you, okay. That's a big majority.
40. And could I have a show of hands, please, to keep the current text? So against that amendment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that amendment is carried. We're now on to table 5, then 3, then 8. Table 5, please. There was one there, yeah.
Hi, I'm Paula, table 5, and it's ballot paper 3, the question of councillor hours. So the first part was fine, but I and some others at this table felt that the second line, only councillors who are on the new Dublin City and County Assembly, almost presupposes the result of ballot number 4. So thought perhaps we should add in brackets, if applicable.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right, Paul. I meant to do that during the week, and it was I clearly don't.
Thanks, Paula. So
that will then apply, I think, to the previous amendment to the last question about secretarial support. Yeah, and also we wondered.
Sorry. Just if this is a second amendment you're proposing?
Connected to the same.
Okay, so I just need clarity because we're going to change the ballot paper. Councillor hours, ballot paper number 3, table 3. Councillor hours, the 4th row. Only councillors who are on the new Dublin City and County Assembly. The proposed is to insert brackets, if applicable, close brackets. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could I have a show of hands against that, please? The show of hands for. That amendment carries. Your next one, please, Paula.
So the line below that, we just wondered, should it just say all councillors?
Okay, so you're proposing where it reads both local councillors and councillors on the new Dublin City and County Assembly to replace that text with the word all. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could I have a show of hands supporting that amendment? 32. Could I show of hands to reject that amendment, i.e. keep the current text? Okay, the amendment carries. Thank you, Paula. Anything else?
And
thanks.
Just for consistency, we'll apply the same formula to Luke's earlier amendment as well, so the distinguishing between the two of them, so just to be consistent on the ballot.
Okay, I have table 3, then 8. Table 3 in the corner here, thanks. And then Madeline, is it for 8?
Yeah, Madeline,
Thank you. Shifra from table 3 again. So we just had a couple of assumptions that we felt were implied from the ballots or from previous discussions but not explicitly stated that we felt could be added to the assumption list perhaps or otherwise asked in the ballot. The first was that any staff nominated or chosen to work with the Mayor are aligned to the Mayor's term limit.
Sorry, I'm unclear what the amendment is.
It's an assumption.
An assumption.
So the amendment is you're adding an assumption?
Yes.
So what is the addition, thanks?
Any staff nominated or chosen to work with the Mayor are aligned to the Mayor's term limit.
Any staff chosen?
Or nominated, whatever the process is chosen by ballot 4.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I just want to do this?
I just need the text if you're going to.
She's ready.
Any staff
I'm not writing it fast.
appointed to work with the Mayor.
Any staff appointed to work with
the directly elected Mayor.
Yep.
Are aligned to the directly elected Mayor's term limit.
Directly elected Mayor's
term limit, so they're there for the same period of time.
This is 5,500 staff, Shifra, we're talking about.
So then when we're looking at we're talking about the leadership level, sorry. So things the cabinet, the deputy mayor,
We
etc.
could probably deal with this afternoon when we're dealing with the structure, I think, and the role of the Director General.
That's fine.
Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah.
Table 3? Yes,
Yeah.
no, yes? Okay, we'll do it this afternoon. Okay, so table 8, Madeleine, oh sorry, do you have another one? Okay.
The second one was that the directly elected mayor has power of initiative over devolved policy areas. So just if we vote on ballot 1 that X area is under the power of the directly elected mayor, that they have some policy making powers.
Yeah, so your proposed text is
the directly elected mayor has power of initiative over devolved policy areas.
It's power of initiative over
devolved policy areas.
Is this not already assumed? You know, if the mayor has devolved powers, that he can bring forward policy proposals?
This is not being pernickety, and I'm sorry to be another politician speaking. The assumption of local government on paper is that these powers are devolved and that there is a power of initiative. The system is built so public servants, executive, have more of that power of initiative. I think it is important that we state very clearly that the directly elected political leader of the city has the power of initiative. It is not superfluous to say it, I think it is necessary.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go to if you have a comment to that, John, is it like is a supporting comment?
No, just
is it a comment?
Alternative.
Is it a question on this? Okay, so from table, John.
Yeah, no, it's just to ask, it says directly elected mayor can introduce new regulation in areas devolved to them. Does that not cover what you're saying? I agree with the point you're making. I'm just wondering if it, to some extent, it's already covered.
Yeah, no, it's
okay,
just...
it's a question against, they're making a proposal, in line with our principles, everybody has an equal voice, so you're making a proposal, is that correct? Proposal is a directly elected mayor has power of initiative over devolved policy, is that correct? That's an amendment to be included in the assumption. Is that correct? Okay. So could I have a show of hands in support of that proposed amendment? The directly elected mayor has the power of initiative over devolved policy. Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Makes sense. 14. I got 16. Sorry. I got 16. Show hands again, please. I got 16 there. 16, I got 16 as well. Those against, please. Many?
23.
Okay. So it's rejected.
Yeah. Can I just say? I mean, it's and again, it's a matter for yourselves. But you've just voted against the mayor having power to initiate issues. You know, is that not what you have just done? Yeah. Yeah.
So okay. So I just going to have to. I'll chair this. So we've a comment there from table number 1.
I would disagree with you there, Art. I think we have voted not to change the ballot paper. We're assuming that that's how that will be. There's 0 point in us being here deciding about a directly elected mayor if they don't have that power.
Okay.
So it's automatic in my head.
All right.
Okay,
well,
so
sure voice,
Luke on table 6. And I am going to wrap this up now at 12 o'clock because we do have a time limit.
I suppose it's a comment because I think it's something we can also deal with later on in the day when we get to ballot paper, when we get to the structure.
Okay.
Because in the structure we don't have it clear there how the powers are going down through the whole process. I think we could be more specific on that paper. You know?
Thanks. Point taken. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate that. And finally, I think the last one is on table 8. Thanks, Madeleine. And thank you so much for your patience. Do we have another one for table 4? Okay.
Madeleine, table 8. This is very short. So we were just asking on ballot paper 3, question 1, to have an additional option, which is not necessarily an Irish citizen and over 21 years old.
Sorry, and your proposed amendment is to insert a new row in ballot paper 3, which, what's the text read?
Not necessarily an Irish citizen and over 21 years old.
So just change.
As in a combination of the two current options.
Okay, so
just changing
the amendment is proposed amendment is ballot paper 3, the election table number 1, and there'll be a 5th row, and the 5th row will be to include not necessarily an Irish citizen and over 21 years of age. Is that correct, Madeline? So can I have a show of hands to support that amendment? And can I have a show of hands, please, against? Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got 16, yeah. So that amendment is carried. Thank you. And the last one then we've on table 4. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Meena. The ballot paper 1, just an instruction to be inserted if it's a tick or a cross. There is combination on all other ballot papers.
So just repeat that again, sorry, again.
On ballot paper 1.
Ballot paper 1, yep.
Just to insert an instruction if it's a tick or a cross, because there's combination going on in all other ballot papers.
Okay, tick or a cross. Okay. So
we can just do that.
We can, I think, we can adjust. That's a very good suggestion. So we're just going to insert a tick, or is it a tick?
Or an X.
Or an X.
Yeah.
Either or.
There's combination going on.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's a tick.
Yeah.
On ballot paper is a tick, but on ballot paper 4 it's a cross. So just so we know which one we are to do.
Okay. So is it? So you give the So you're proposing just a tick, not a cross.
Whichever. Just
Either-
to give an instruction so people know what to do.
Yeah, listen, we'll be flexible in how we interpret it.
Okay.
A tick, a cross, a mark, anything that goes in the box, just that can indicate a preference is what we'll take.
Yes.
Do you want us to? I mean, it's your paper. Do you want us to insert that, or are you happy with Art's explanation?
I'm happy with that explanation.
So you can withdraw that amendment, yeah?
Okay.
Okay. No, it's a question, not a. Yes, you can. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes. So before we close off ballot paper 1, 2, and 3, can I just open up the floor? Have we been open, fair, given everybody the equality of voice, have been respectful? Have all those things been dealt with, as in nobody has any more comments to make before we break for a coffee? Okay. Before we do, we're going to get a nice family photograph. We're going to go onto the historic yard. We'll take a photograph, and then you have your coffee, and please be back seated by 12:15. Oh, sorry, we'll start the ballot at about 12:15, not at 12:15. So out the main door, down the steps, out into the courtyard. Is that right?
No, sorry, we're actually going to take it in the room, so once we finish.
Oh, sorry, you're going to take it in the room.
Explain.
Okay, could you just maybe Lorraine just explain where you want us?
Yeah.
You see, you have to get the mic because we can't.
Yeah, so basically we're going to have the 6 tables sit as you are, or stay as you are, and the top 6 tables just to move down. And
Okay,
fill the
so
spaces.
what tables do you want to sit down? What numbers?
Well, 7 to 12 stay where you are. The other tables, if you would move.
So 10 and 12 only?
So basically, the photographer is going to be on the balcony up here, so he'll be taking a shot down. So everybody, table 7 to 12, stand up, and everybody from table 1 to 6 come and kind of stand in between the tables.